Scotland at 7. We start tonight with a rather unpleasant story going back to 1977, 42 years. World End killer Angus Sinclair, one of Scotland's most notorious serial killers, has died at the age of 73. 42 years ago, in 1977, Helen Scott and Christine Eadie, two young women, both 17 years old, went out for a night at the World End pub in Edinburgh. Sinclair and his brother-in-law, Gordon Hamilton, raped and murdered them. These were not the first of Sinclair's killings. When he was 16, he killed a 7-year-old Catherine Rehill. He admitted culpable homicide and was sent to prison for 6 years. He was also convicted of killing 17-year-old Mary Gallagher after there was a cold case review. He is suspected of killing another 4 women. In 1982, Sinclair was imprisoned for life after admitting to 11 cases of rape and indecent assault. It was only in 2014 that he was finally convicted of the World's End murders, when Scotland's double jeopardy law was repealed. A previous trial had collapsed 7 years earlier in 2007, but improved techniques on DNA evidence made this possible. It was quite something when you think that was this double jeopardy law that was changed, and he was then sentenced to 37 years in prison. Now we move to the perennial problem of Brexit, which is really unsettled and uncertain. But in the light of the uncertainty, Scotland's Public Health Minister, Joe Fitzpatrick, has said that the UK government must rule out a no-deal Brexit. Otherwise, they risk damaging and lasting consequences for the health and social care system of Scotland. Mr. Fitzpatrick said there are now only 18 days until the UK is due to leave the European Union. And we still have received no guarantee from the UK government that supplies of medicine will continue uninterrupted. This is completely unacceptable. The House of Commons will vote again tomorrow on the EU withdrawal agreement, which has already been defeated in January. Amid some speculation this will be delayed, the SNP have said it would be an unacceptable breach of trust if the vote did not go forward as planned. The SNP want Article 50 extended to allow a second referendum, with both the remaining leaving the EU on the ballot paper. Meanwhile, the EU has said that the UK could face a €50 billion bill to meet ongoing commitments which Theresa May already agreed to. The EU would insist on this payment being made even in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Scottish Economic Secretary Derek Mackay has said that the numbers working to prepare for Brexit in the call centre in Clydebank will be increased. This is due to help Scottish business prepare for Brexit. Another unintended consequence, I'm sure this is, Ryanair shareholders who are UK citizens will have their rights restricted in the event of a no-deal Brexit. This is to ensure that it complies with licensing and flight rights which state it must be majority EU owned. In the event of a no-deal Brexit, shareholders will be issued with restricted share notices, informing them that they can't vote, speak, or even attend any general meeting of the company whilst shares are restricted. While the airline is 55% EU owned, British-based shareholders control 20% of the stock. Chief Executive Michael O'Leary said it may look to buy back the shares of those affected. In the House of Commons today, Jeremy Corbyn introduced an urgent question on the EU withdrawal bill.
Order. Urgent question. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Prime Minister if she will make a statement on progress made in achieving legal changes to the EU withdrawal agreement and the timetable for approval in this House through a meaningful vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As negotiations are ongoing, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As negotiations are ongoing on this matter and are at a critical stage, I am here to update the House on the latest developments. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, spoke to President Juncker by phone yesterday evening, and teams are continuing to talk throughout today. The Government will be making a statement later today, updating the House on the progress of discussions. And as previously understood, the Attorney-General's legal analysis will be updated following the outcome of negotiations, and he will be publishing his legal analysis document that is on any document that is produced and negotiated with the European Union to the House before it meets tomorrow. Clearly, I cannot preempt the outcome of these sensitive and urgent discussions, and I am sure the House understands that I am not able to share details or engage in speculation about talks that are still ongoing. But I can assure this House that as soon as there has been a conclusion to the negotiations, the House will be updated. The meaningful vote will take place tomorrow, and the motion will be tabled today ahead of that debate. It is then this House will face a fundamental choice: back the Brexit deal or risk a delay that would mean months more arguing about Brexit, prolonging the current uncertainty. Uncertainty which would do nothing but pass control to Brussels and increase the risks. It is incumbent on this House to deliver on the will of the British people and to provide certainty. Tomorrow, honourable and right honourable members across this House will have the opportunity to do so in a meaningful vote, fully informed on the Government's legal analysis. I believe that the right honourable gentleman and every honourable member in this House should take that opportunity to move forward and to provide certainty.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, this is a government in chaos with a country in chaos because of this mess. I left my office at 3:20. At that time, Downing Street was unable to confirm who would be responding to my question. And it seems that the WhatsApp group or a lottery or something has chosen the member for Worcester to reply to the House when my question was to the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we find out from journalists from the Irish Government that the Prime Minister is apparently heading to Strasbourg this evening, or not heading to Strasbourg this evening, hours before a meaningful vote is due.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is crucial that this House has the opportunity to extend Article 50 on Thursday, because we have to take back control from the shambles of a government. We are 18 days away from the scheduled UK exit from the EU. 18 days, and yet this government still has no plan to protect jobs and living standards. The Prime Minister is guilty of neglect. She's proven incapable of governance, incapable of negotiation, and utterly incapable of leadership. The truth is, the politics of the United Kingdom has become a farce. The lack of leadership from the Tory and the Labour parties has left people across the United Kingdom at a loss, panicking about their futures, abandoned by their so-called leaders. Mr. Speaker, this morning, Downing Street exclaims that tomorrow's vote will go ahead. That's been repeated by the Minister. That must happen. It is welcome, because to dither and delay it yet again would be another act of grave cowardice. We cannot ignore the facts. Mr. Speaker, this place is in total chaos. The crisis engulfing the United Kingdom is deepening. In Scotland, businesses, students, farmers, academics, mothers, farmers, EU nationals are rightly worried about their futures. But this government, this Tory party, this Prime Minister couldn't care less about the people of Scotland. This deal will damage our economy, destroy growth and deprive Scottish people of all the cherished opportunities the European Union has gifted us. Michel Barnier was very clear. The negotiations are over. He said we talked all weekend, and now the discussions and negotiations are between the government in London and the Parliament in London. So can the Minister tell us, is the government backing the Prime Minister's deal tomorrow? Will the text of the motion we vote on have a new arrangement on the Northern Ireland backstop? Has the Prime Minister negotiated with the European Union new protections for the Scottish economy? And if not, are the Scottish MPs and her party ready to resign? Scotland did not vote for Brexit, and we must not be dragged out of the European Union against our will. The sovereign right of the Scottish people to choose our own future must be respected. We are and we will remain a European nation.
Caroline Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he care at all about the real impact on real people of his government's utter incompetence? In my Brighton constituency, American Express, the biggest private sector employer, is deeply concerned about recruitment problems because of his recklessness. So can he answer a very simple question? Will he himself vote against no deal if the Prime Minister's deal is lost?
Joanna Cherry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the mess that the UK Government is in at this 11th hour, does the Minister think that his boss, the real Prime Minister, will ultimately be very grateful for the ruling secured by myself and other Scottish parliamentarians from the Court of Justice in Luxembourg that Article 50 can be unilaterally revoked and there is a way for the United Kingdom out of this?
Now, sometimes you wonder if things get connected or not, but a few weeks ago, Mr. Williamson, Gavin Williamson, the Secretary of Defence, was asking people from the Commonwealth to come and work in the British Army and the British Forces. And here yet we have another story about immigration, and it regards one of their members of the British Forces. It's a soldier, a British soldier called Dennis Omondi. He's married to a Scottish woman, Shilag, and they live up at Fort George up in the Highlands. Anyway, soldier Dennis Omondi has a daughter, and she's called Anne, and she lives in Kenya, where he comes from. And the Home Office have refused many times to let her come and stay with her father, who is the man who's responsible for her. Lance Corporal Omondi's daughter is currently in Kenya, where her father is from. He has full custody of her. However, it was argued that because of the amount of time he spent away, he would not be spending enough time with her. He is currently stationed at Fort George, and his local MP, Drew Henry, has backed the case and said, "I am absolutely delighted that Lance Corporal Dennis Omondi will finally be reunited with his daughter Anne. They should never have been put through this ordeal." Mr. Henry added that he will continue a wider appeal to ensure soldiers from the Commonwealth are allowed to bring their families with them while stationed in the UK. Now we move to the tragedy in Ethiopia. The airline, the black box from the airline that crashed yesterday has been recovered, according to Ethiopian State TV. The passenger jet was bound for Nairobi in Kenya, but it crashed, killing all 157 people who were on board. The same aeroplane, it was a Boeing 737 MAX 8, also crashed in Indonesia. I actually think that shouldn't say the same aeroplane, but another one of the same type of aeroplane crashed in Indonesia in October. And China's aviation regulator have grounded 100 of these aeroplanes. A US official said investigations are still at the early stages, and they would be following through on the Chinese and most other operators across the world, they said, but they have no other plans to ground any other aeroplanes in this situation. Oil and gas. Apparently, the forecast for oil and gas in Scotland has been revised. The amounts of oil and gas in the North Sea have now been estimated at 50% increase on what we previously thought. The Oil and Gas Authority now forecasts that almost 20 billion barrels of oil will be extracted by 2050. This has been driven by lower production costs and new discoveries in the North Sea. Now there's a nice little gentler item of the news today. You can now explore Glasgow's prehistoric past on the internet and a 3D model of Glasgow's fossil grove. This is now available online if you just Google it or go to one of the other search engines, and it's been published by Historic Environment Scotland. It's a new way to allow people to explore the grove, and it will also help to protect the fossils in the future. Wings Over Scotland is an internet-based site that deals with Scottish issues and Scottish matters. They have their own opinions about various different things, but they also discuss what's going on in the media. They had a panel-based poll, and they found that a majority of Scots would back independence over any form of Brexit. 52% would back Brexit over a no deal. 53% would back independence rather than Mrs May's deal. The survey was commissioned by Wings Over Scotland, and it also found that Scotland would back remaining in the EU even more strongly than it did at the referendum in 2006. SNP Deputy Leader Keith Brown responded by saying, "The Tories say that Brexit is like hitting an iceberg, and Scotland has to go down with the ship. It's time Scotland took its own decisions instead." So there we are. That's tonight's news, and it'll be a busy day tomorrow with the vote in the House of Commons. So if you can join us tomorrow, that would be great. Thanks for watching tonight. Bye-bye.